Hello, I'm Nadia Jani and you're watching AnewZ. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Israel says 1 of 4 bodies returned to Israel by Hamas doesn't match any of the hostages. NATO ministers meet in Brussels to strengthen defences and renew military support for Ukraine. And France's Prime Minister suspends pension reforms to save the government. First this evening, Israel's military has said the 4th body handed over by Hamas on Tuesday doesn't match any of the hostages. Donald Trump's peace plan required Hamas to return all the hostages, living and dead, by the end of the 72-hour deadline, which expired on Monday. 8 bodies were returned, 7 of which Israel says belong to hostages, with another 20 yet to be handed over by Hamas. The group has previously said it could struggle to locate all of the remains. Israeli officials have already suspended plans to reopen the Rafah crossing and restricted aid flows into Gaza until the process is complete. Now to southern Israel, where our correspondent Lou Brown is reporting from the city of Esdero, just a mile from Gaza. He has been there to assess how the city is recovering under the current ceasefire.
We're here in the city of Esdero on top of Kobe's Hill, just a 1-hour drive south of Tel Aviv. Now, just 1 mile behind me is Gaza. Now, Esdero is significant because on October 7, 2023, the city was subject to intense onslaught by Hamas, with 20 Israeli officers being killed and 72 civilians also being killed. Now, following October 7th, 90% of the city was evacuated across the country, with them not coming back fully until August 2024. Now, we'll be going to report live on the ground later today in Esdero to get the sense of safety and the ceasefire, the local comments on the ceasefire agreement and whether the city is safer now than it was following the days of October 7th. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the ceasefire itself, where Israel has received 4 more bodies yesterday, with 1 body yet to be identified as an Israeli or foreign national taken on October the 7th. Now, Hamas says they cannot locate the other 20 bodies, which Israel says is a violation of the ceasefire. Now, Israel also killed 6 suspects in Gaza yesterday, another violation of the ceasefire agreement. Now, aid that is waiting at the Rafah crossing has yet to come in, with Israel saying they will not allow it. Now, Tom Fletcher, UN chief, urged that aid to come in as soon as possible. Now, we will keep you up to date with the latest on the ceasefire and here in Israel as reports come in. Lou Brown, AnewZ.
Now, he also spoke to residents in Esdero who shared memories of October 7th and their opinion about the peace deal with Hamas.
At 7 October, I came early in the morning to my synagogue, and suddenly I heard shooting. It's not something that every day happened. I went out to see who shoot. And when I went out, one of the Nukhba showed me and shoot me here. I got 1 bullet here. It's big, make a big damage in all my this side. The bullet come from here, take out of my back, and I was wounded very hard. I stand here around 1 hour. After 1 hour, my friend came to the synagogue to pray. He saw me and take me to the ambulance.
As I can imagine, an incredibly emotional time. Lots of, your proximity to Gaza, I can't imagine. Were you affected in any way? Can you tell me more about that if you were?
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm a front desk manager in Tel Aviv, actually. I work in Tel Aviv, and one of my receptionists, she was murdered in the Nova Festival, which was very, very emotional. We were in contact all the time when she was hiding there until about 11 o'clock. Her name was Bar Shem Tov, wonderful 22-year-old girl. She was murdered there, hiding in a dumpster for 4 hours. So that was one, and I had another good friend of mine. He was a friend of mine since he was 7 years old. His name was Itai Zafrani, also murdered in the Nova. So it was very hard, yeah. It was hard times. After that, I served a few months also in the army, so not easy times.
I have memories from the Second World War in England, in London, and one of the personalities that has remained with me throughout my life is Churchill. And for me, Donald Trump, together with Netanyahu, represent for me the Churchills of Israel. I think what they have been doing is wonderful. They've made some mistakes, and many, many people have suffered who should not have suffered. If we had been given a free hand right from the word go, none of this would have happened.
Something that I really liked about what Trump said was his vision of a new Middle East, that's like the imaginary situation that we can go easily to Damascus, to Iraq. You know, this dream, it's a dream. And it's us humans that can maybe make it happen. But we need good partners for this situation.
Now, President Trump warned that Hamas must disarm or be disarmed. He stressed that the move could happen swiftly or forcefully, if necessary, during a meeting at the White House.
Well, they're going to disarm, and because they said they were going to disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. But we have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me?
Yes, you say
because everyone says, oh, well, they won't disarm. They will disarm. And I spoke to Hamas, and I said, you're going to disarm, right? Yes, sir, we're going to disarm. That's what they told me. They will disarm or we will disarm them. Got it?
After a jubilant Monday with the return of hostages and Palestinian prisoners, a fragile calm returns to Gaza as recovery efforts are now underway. Palestinians are beginning to clear the ruins of their streets and homes, preparing to return to the neighbourhoods shattered by 2 years of war.
After the ceasefire deal took effect, calm has finally returned to Gaza, where Palestinians are beginning the long road to recovery. On Tuesday, people were seen walking through rubble-filled streets while bulldozers cleared debris from roads and neighbourhoods across Gaza City. Local officials say the clean-up aims to reopen key routes to help thousands of displaced residents return home. Gaza City has suffered vast destruction, with around 83% of its buildings damaged after 2 years of war.
From the beginning of the ceasefire, the municipality of Gaza started immediately to act for opening the roads and streets of the city. This was very important in order to allow for the people to return, come back from the south to the north, and for them to reach their homes and their shelter places.
Authorities say they've lost most of their heavy machinery and now rely on private contractors and international aid.
We face many difficulties and we require too many things. Therefore, we ask everybody to open the borders of Gaza Strip to allow for all goods to enter the Gaza with no restrictions. We need spare parts of all kinds for electric generators, for water wells, pumps, for vehicles, and we need heavy machinery to support the municipalities for their work. And we also demand to have building materials, especially cement.
The United Nations Development Programme says the war has left behind at least 55 million tonnes of rubble and warns that Gaza's recovery could take decades.
The amount of damage in the Gaza Strip is huge. There are more than 50 million tons of rubble now in the Gaza Strip that requires strategies so we can remove them from the areas, neighbourhoods and people's homes. There is also a lack in resources and abilities, especially heavy machinery. We need a big number of heavy machinery from bulldozers, diggers and trucks.
European and Arab nations, along with Canada and the United States, have signalled their readiness to help fund Gaza's estimated $70 billion reconstruction effort. As the Israeli-Palestinian war comes to an end, and with the final hostages released under the ceasefire deal, both sides are now counting the human and physical cost of the conflict.
Now, Pakistan and Afghanistan have agreed to a 48-hour ceasefire following fresh cross-border clashes that left several people dead on both sides. The agreement, announced by both countries, calls a diplomatic solution to the fighting. Fighting broke out last week along the Afghanistan-Pakistan border, with each side blaming the other for triggering the violence. Pakistan's military said its forces killed up to 20 Taliban fighters, but Taliban officials accused Islamabad for shelling civilian areas, saying 12 people were killed and more than 100 injured. Turning to Europe now, NATO and the European Union are working together to establish a drone wall to protect member countries from drone incursions, according to NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte. Speaking ahead of a meeting with defence ministers, Rutte noted that the EU and NATO play complementary roles. NATO provides military capabilities and the EU leveraging the soft power of its internal market.
One of the issues we were discussing is this new program, which we launched only in August, the program where the United States is again delivering essential, lethal and non-lethal military support to Ukraine, paid for by allies, already 2 billion committed. And I have every reason to assume today that many other countries will sign up. I can assure you that the EU and NATO are really working very well together. There is no doubling at all. Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, myself, the relevant commissioners, including Kubilius and of course Kaja Kallas and the others, we are all making sure that we make use of the strengths of the two organizations.
Now, the United Kingdom and Germany will convene a meeting of the Ukraine Defence Contact Group, also known as the Ramstein Group, at the NATO headquarters. The previous group meeting took place on the 9th of September in London. The format was established in 2022 by the US as a platform to coordinate military aid to Ukraine, involving more than 50 countries. After Donald Trump entered office, the coordination of meetings has been handled by the UK and Germany. We'll bring you more on that as it comes. The UK has delivered more than 85,000 military drones to Ukraine in the past 6 months and plans to send more. Defence Secretary John Healey confirmed that £600 million has been invested this year to speed up drone production and deliveries. The drones include tens of thousands of FPV models used for precision strikes. Healey, speaking in Brussels, urged allies to boost drone production to counter Russia's growing use of drones. Meanwhile, China has sharply increased supplies of drone parts to Russia, including a 10-fold rise in fibre optic cables and lithium batteries. European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen urged Serbia to get concrete on its proclaimed goal of joining the EU, including implementing sanctions on Russia. Von der Leyen met with Serbia's Aleksandar Vučić in Belgrade during her Balkans tour. At a joint press conference, both von der Leyen and Vučić spoke on the months-long protests in Serbia that erupted due to a train station canopy collapsing in November last year, killing 16 people, which the protesters blame on graft-fueled negligence.
You know very well where the European Union stands. We stand for freedom instead of oppression, including the right of peaceful assembly. We stand for partnership instead of submission. We stand for diplomacy instead of aggression. Now, almost 2 decades ago, Serbia made a choice to join our union. And it was not only a strategic choice, it was also a choice of the heart. It was the demand of the people of Serbia, and we look forward to Serbia to double down on its European Union path.
Kada ste imali u velikim evropskim zemljama proteste,
when you had protests in big European countries, sometimes there were even 27 dead. At such protests in Serbia, fortunately, and thanks to enormous patience of the state of Serbia, there were no casualties during these 11 months. Since you're talking about the right of peaceful assembly, this country is the champion of the world when it comes to the freedom of assembly. There were more than 25,000 criminal, illegal, unannounced assemblies that we secured and took care of the people who were holding them illegally.
To the United States now, where the federal government shutdown has entered its third week. There's still no breakthrough in Washington, and the standoff is now affecting key services and workers across the country. What happens next depends on whether President Trump and Congress can reach a deal.
The federal government shutdown has stretched into its third week, with no sign of a breakthrough in Washington. A key vote in the Senate on Tuesday failed to end the standoff, deepening the impact on public services and workers across the country. Senators voted 49 to 45 in favour of a Republican-backed short-term funding bill, but the motion fell short of the 60 votes needed to move forward. The deadlock has left government departments without funding, extending a partial shutdown that began on October 1st. Thousands of federal employees are out of work, while key institutions, including the Smithsonian Museums and National Zoo, have closed or scaled back operations. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention also mistakenly issued hundreds of redundancy notices last week, with around 600 workers still on unpaid leave. Air travel is also disrupted, with staff shortages among air traffic controllers, causing nearly 8,000 flight delays and over 270 cancellations on Sunday. As the shutdown continues, pressure is mounting on President Trump and Congress to reach a deal, but millions of Americans remain affected.
France's Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has frozen President Macron's pension reform in a last-minute move to avoid government collapse as two no-confidence votes loom. Here's how the suspension has reshaped the political fight in Paris.
France's Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has announced the suspension of President Emmanuel Macron's controversial 2023 pension reform, a last-minute move to save his minority government from collapse. Speaking in Parliament, Lecornu said the plan to raise the retirement age from 62 to 64 will be frozen until after the 2027 presidential election, effectively shelving Macron's flagship reform. The move comes just days before two no-confidence votes. With conditional backing from the socialists, Lecornu may survive, but at a political cost. The 2023 reform, pushed through under Article 49.3 without a vote, sparked months of strikes and was seen as a wound on democracy. Now, by promising open debate and ruling out 49.3, Lecornu hopes to rebuild trust and win support for his 2026 budget.
Prime Minister, the French people were waiting for your statement. They were waiting for a sign that you were listening to the suspension of the pension reform. Here it is finally. It is a victory, certainly.
Socialist leader Boris Vallaud hailed the move as a democratic victory, but warned that the left would stay vigilant to ensure promises become action.
You have accepted a new rule of the game, abandoning Article 49.3. We accept it because we asked for it and because democracy does not die from being in movement, but from staying still.
But the far right was scathing. National Rally's Sébastien Chenu mocked Lecornu's fragile position and accused the socialists of falling for a political illusion.
Good day, Prime Minister, and goodbye, Prime Minister. The Socialist Party, bought on the cheap, will be taken for a ride. A no-confidence vote is coming, no matter what.
From the far left, Mathilde Panot of France Unbowed called Lecornu's tenure a short-term contract, a symbol, she said, of Macronism collapsing under its own weight.
The third tenant of Matignon in less than a year, a short-term contract, an unstable lease. This is Macronism facing itself.
Lecornu, Macron's fifth prime minister in 2 years, warned that freezing the reform would cost nearly €2 billion by 2027 to be offset through spending cuts, not new debt. For now, the concession has bought him time. But with public debt at 114% of GDP and confidence in the government eroding, this fragile reprieve may not last.
After weeks of youth-led protests over corruption and poor governance, Madagascar's military has seized control of the country. President André Rajoelina fled on French military plane after being impeached. The leader of the CAPSAT army unit announced a transitional military government, suspended key institutions and promised elections within 2 years. Protesters largely welcomed the takeover, but called for a swift return to civilian rule. President Rajoelina's office has condemned the move as an attempted coup. Now to Brussels, and the US of Defense Pete Hegseth has said firepower is coming to Ukraine through European nations' purchases of US weapons. But whether that includes American-made Tomahawk missiles is still not clear. Alongside this, he has urged allies to ramp up investment in the prioritized Ukraine requirements list program, which replaced US arms donations to Ukraine and now requires allies to pay for US weapons deliveries. Now, joining me to discuss this in more detail is Lieutenant General Siraj Ronya. Hello and welcome.
Hello, good afternoon.
My first question is where I really want to start with what Trump has said about possibly sending Tomahawks to Russia if Russia doesn't end the war. Do you think that is a threat that Russia will actually take heed of?
So let's see. I suppose that this is working in the mean of deterrence. So to press to put pressure on Putin to turn back to the table of negotiations, of course. Nevertheless, and that works the deterrence with Trump because we have seen from the past. From the past actions from the United States, especially in Iran, that when Trump threats to use the weapons or to deliver the weapons to others, he will do it. So it's something that the Russia has to take good care of that. We know that that could be considered as a risk for the West, for the United States and for Ukraine. Risk of that things could escalate in Ukraine. Nevertheless, Putin, that is, it's clever. It's not stupid, as you know. He knows that any escalation that could go far away from what is acceptable from not only from the West or from the United States, even for their own partners, namely China, especially China, that do not want to see the use of nuclear weapons. It's something that Putin has to take care of course. So we have seen that this kind of red lines that Putin the Russian regime has been addressing in the past. Namely, that started with the tanks, the Leopard tanks, and after the missiles, and after the F-16s, the airplanes, and others, we didn't see from the Russian side any special escalation other than attacks to civilian infrastructures and civilian people in Ukraine.
I see.
Nevertheless, it's. I suppose that the main message that Trump wants to send to Putin is that he has to come back to the negotiation table, stop the war, first of all, and we have seen that as we can see in Gaza, even without any special political agreement or a peace process, stopping the war with a ceasefire it's important. I suppose that is the main message that Trump wants to address to Putin.
Of course.
Nevertheless,
and with that, sorry, and just
nevertheless, we say okay.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Sorry, finish your sentence.
Okay. Now, nevertheless, we know that when all the sort of weapons that the United States are ready to deliver to Ukrainians is not only Tomahawks. Tomahawks, so under the technical point of view, it's difficult for the Ukrainians to use it. It's a missile, a cruise missile that was created and built special to be launched by airplanes, big airplanes, bombers, and submarines and frigates. So it's not easy to launch them from a ground station. It's not impossible, it's not easy. And the Tomahawks need the help and the support of the United States to work. So the missile guiding system needs the US satellites to work. But there are other assets, other missiles and other capabilities that the Ukrainians need more than the Tomahawks. Namely the anti-aircraft missiles and anti-missile systems. So it's Patriots and others. So that's the most important. Nevertheless, the red line
Yes, okay, Mr. Soronja, sorry, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to interrupt. Sorry, you've given us quite a detailed response to my first question. My other question is, Britain has recently said that the UK's jets will continue to fly over Poland and ramp up its drone production for Ukraine. You mentioned there are other weapons that Ukraine needs. Is that a good sign that UK is providing this for Ukraine?
Yeah, of course. The other system that Ukraine needs is anti-drone systems also. Not only the airplanes, but other systems that can attack the drones and the missile system. So the engagement of the allies that border Ukraine, it's very important even to put pressure on Putin, because Putin knows that these illegal overflights over allied territory will have to come to a end, and the end is possibly the attack to an airplane or drones, and get them back to the ground. So it's important that the allies deploy to Ukraine or to Poland, to the borders, systems that are useful and important not only to defend allied territory, but also in the future probably Ukraine territory.
And very quickly, Trump on Tuesday expressed disappointment with President Vladimir Putin, whom he said was unwilling to put an end to the conflict in Ukraine. What do you think might be next for these two leaders following the historic summit that we had?
Look, we never know, because we have seen in the past Trump being a little bit tough with Putin, and after that was the case of the meeting in Alaska. After the meeting, the situation and the relation, it looks to have a change. But I suppose that for the time being, Donald Trump is, and not for Donald Trump, just even for all the administration, it's very clear that Putin is not reliable. So it's, and I suppose that Putin is trying again to send peaceful message to Trump, trying to decrease the tension in a way that the means, especially the most important military capabilities that the United States are ready to deploy to deliver to Ukraine, are not sent. So that's the main point that Putin wants to, with this way to be more close to Trump. Nevertheless, I suppose that Trump clearly realized that the only way to sit Putin at the table is through peace, through strength, as he told from the very beginning. So I suppose that is needed, that Ukraine could be more able to defend itself, of course, and to put more pressure in Russia, attacking military and economic capacities in the infrastructures, to pressure Putin to sit in the table and to stop the war first, and after beginning a peace political process to the future.
Well, thank you so much for your insights and for joining me, Lieutenant Soronja. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Welcome back to AnewZ. Now, let's take a closer look at the story shaping the region. Now to Syria, where the Syrian President Ahmad al-Sharaa has arrived in Moscow to meet with President Vladimir Putin. It's al-Sharaa's first visit since the toppling of Bashar al-Assad's regime last year. The talks are focusing on bilateral cooperation between the two countries, regional developments and the status of Russia's naval and air bases in Syria. Syrian diplomatic sources says President al-Sharaa will formally request the extradition of al-Assad, who remains in Russia under asylum. The Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi believes that US President Donald Trump has been misled by fake briefings on Tehran's peaceful nuclear program, which led him to order attacking Iran last June. Our correspondent from Tehran brings us more.
Foreign Minister Araghchi said in a post on X that the US president has been badly fed the fake line that Iran's peaceful nuclear program was on the verge of weaponization in the spring. Saying that Trump's feed on the military direction of Iran's nuclear program was a big lie, Araghchi added he should have been informed that there was zero proof to support the lie, as admitted by the US intelligence community. He was reacting to the remarks on Monday by the US chief executive in the Israeli parliament, as well as at the Sharm el-Sheikh summit in Egypt, alleging that Tehran was developing nuclear bombs and was deterred after the airstrikes on its nuclear facilities. Tehran declined Egypt's invitation to participate in the Sharm el-Sheikh summit on Gaza ceasefire between Hamas and Israel, saying that it cannot sit at the same table with those who attacked Iran, referring to US airstrikes last June. In the meantime, Araghchi arrived in Kampala, Uganda on Wednesday to take part at the 19th midterm ministerial meeting of the non-aligned movement. He is expected to state Iran's position on regional and international developments, including the stalled nuclear talks with US and the Gaza ceasefire, besides meeting with counterparts from the NAM member states. Turaj Shiralilu, Tehran, AnewZ TV.
President of Azerbaijan Ilham Aliyev received a delegation led by Elina Valtonen, the OSCE chairperson in office, and Finland's Foreign Minister Valtonen congratulated Aliyev on the agreements reached between Azerbaijan and Armenia in Washington. She noted the importance of these developments for peace, stability and regional cooperation in the OSCE area. Valtonen also announced that the OSCE Minsk process and its related structures will be dissolved by December this year. Following requests from Azerbaijan and Armenia, President Aliyev highlighted the agreements reached in Washington under the witness of US President Donald Trump created conditions to advance the peace agenda. The leaders discussed cooperation between Azerbaijan and the OSCE, as well as prospects for bilateral relations with Finland. Georgia has won another major case against Russia at the European Court of Human Rights, a legal victory that reinforces the country's sovereignty. Yet, while Georgia gains recognition in Europe's courts, its political relationship with European institutions remains under strain. Here's Nini Nikolashvili with more on the subject.
Georgia has scored a significant victory in its long legal fight with Russia. On October 14, the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg ordered Russia to pay 253 million euros to more than 29,000 Georgian citizens, recognizing human rights violations linked to the ongoing occupation of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. The decision, part of the case Georgia v. Russia, is the fourth ruling in Georgia's favor, a major confirmation of Moscow's responsibility for unlawful detentions, attacks and displacement along the occupation line. Prime Minister Irakli Qabakhidze welcomed the judgment, calling it proof of Georgia's principled and consistent defense of its interests in international courts. He thanked the Justice Ministry for its work and said that such victories show the government's determination to uphold the truth and accountability. But this success in Strasbourg's courtroom comes at a time when Georgia's political ties with Europe are under strain. Earlier this year, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe left Georgia's delegation credentials conditional, citing concerns about democratic standards and human rights. Instead of accepting those terms, the Georgian delegation withdrew from the Parliamentary Assembly, a symbolic move that underscored the country's growing tension with one of Europe's key political institutions. Nini Nikolaishvili, Tbilisi, AnewZ.
The third Azerbaijan National Urban Forum has begun in Khan Kendi, focusing on building healthier and more climate-resilient cities. The event brings together local and international experts to discuss sustainable urban development and regional cooperation. Our reporter Sabina Abu-Bekrova has more.
Today marks the opening of the third Azerbaijan National Urban Forum. It brings together guests from 64 countries, experts, architects, officials and community leaders. The forum keeps growing each year. This time, more than 400 participants have joined us here in Khan Kendi, and another 500 will continue the discussions in Baku later this week. The focus on how to build climate-resilient, healthy and modern cities across Azerbaijan's liberated territories. Key topics include post-conflict recovery, energy efficiency, housing and digital innovations. Among the opening speakers were Anar Guliyev, chairman and the State Committee, and Anna Claudia Rosbach, executive director of UN Habitat. The choice of Khan Kendi is symbolic. Exactly 2 years ago, President Ilham Aliyev raised the national flag here, marking restored sovereignty. Now the mission is renewal, turning that momentum into real transformation. Sabina Abu-Bekrova, AnewZ.
Uzbekistan is taking another big step towards greener transit networks. The country has just received a major delivery of electric buses from China, part of a wider plan to modernize its public transport and cut emissions in the capital of Tashkent.
A total of 202 Yutong electric buses and 102 charging stations have been delivered to Uzbekistan as part of the country's ongoing effort to modernize its public transport network. The new buses produced in China will soon be deployed across 34 roads in Tashkent. According to the Ministry of Transport, the environmentally friendly vehicles will reduce harmful emissions by around 93.3 tons per month, supporting the capital's transition to cleaner energy in the public sector. Each bus is covered by a 3-year factory warranty and is equipped with modern air conditioning and safety systems to ensure comfort and reliability. Beyond the transport upgrade, the deal also reflects China's growing role in exporting its environmental brand abroad. In 2024 alone, China exported over $45 billion worth of clean energy products, including electric vehicles, solar panels and batteries, accounting for more than 60% of global EV sales. Officials say this delivery is part of a broader plan to make 50% of Tashkent's public transport electric by 2030. To reach that goal, another 1,000 electric buses of various sizes, including large 18-meter, standard 12-meter and mid-size models are expected to be purchased next year. The initiative aligns with Uzbekistan's green economy strategy, which prioritizes sustainable mobility and regional connectivity. Uzbekistan says that with growing cross-border projects such as the China-Kyrgyzstan-Uzbekistan Railway, expected to handle up to 15 million tons of cargo annually, Uzbekistan is gradually transforming from a landlocked to a land-connected country, integrated into new green trade and transport corridors. It is Sevil Rajapov reporting from Tashkent, Uzbekistan, AnewZ.
Welcome back to AnewZ. Now, turning to the Zangezur corridor, its mapping and connectivity. The Euro-Asian Development Bank's Transport Projects Observatory has reported a 70% surge in transit through Central Asia in the past 4 years, with Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan accounting for 80% of that volume. The argument made increasingly by analysts is that the more Central Asia grows in transit relevance, the greater the pressure on the South Caucasus to ensure its own segments of the Middle Corridor are are swiftly completed. Helping me to dig deeper into this topic is Associate Professor at Tehran University, Nurbalat Nishambayev. Hello and welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
My first question is, could you explain for our audience how the mapping of the Zangezur corridor will help with future planning and the infrastructural hurdles that might be apparent as well?
Definitely. First of all, the reopening the Zangezur corridor will have a greater influence for the wider region, in particular South Caucasus and Central Asia, because we have witnessed it in the last 3 years. The trade routes by the land from China to the Europe had been expanding time by time. So the opening of the Zangezur corridor, definitely it will intensify and it will rise efficiency of the trade routes by Azerbaijan to Turkey. So therefore, in this context, I think the influence of the Zangezur corridor will be hugely impacted, not only the Azerbaijan as well, but for the whole Eurasian countries who are relied upon the logistics and the trades. So therefore, this is one of the strategically important land routes for the whole Turkic nations. So if we look at the history, such a kind of cases which we haven't seen before. So therefore, this is the new corridor, the new map. It shows to what extent the brighter future is coming in terms of logistics, connecting China and Europe by the land, of course, Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Caspian, Azerbaijan, and Turkey. Definitely, it will reshape the logistical turnover over the years, thanks to the reopening of the Zangezur corridor.
I see. And the map that now some of our audience has seen, which we've just kind of shown on the screen, do you think that it's still fit for purpose? And can Armenia and Azerbaijan use this in operational mode for the US supervised corridor?
Sure. If we remember a couple of months ago in the United States, when for the first time in White House, it was said the middle corridor will be the presence of the United States for the 1990 years, definitely it went viral in the media. There was some critics, there was some constructive comments as well. My vision is definitely the high quality image, the high quality map which released yesterday. It shows it needs a further explanation, it needs a further definition. The name of the places, the roads, the quality of this one, the most important, the security and the strategic efficiency of this one, definitely the matter of the future, matter of the time. It will be definitely discussed, it will be analyzed. But the one thing is pretty clear. For now, we have moved, we took a step forward, which helps us to see a better way, at least in the upcoming 100 years. So therefore, the most important aspect is how, not how the map shows, but how it can be used, how it can be used by the external and by the internal actors, and to what extent the security it provides, to what extent it links Azerbaijan to the global trade routes. So therefore, the strategic aspect is definitely way stronger than the map itself.
I see. And also with that, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, as I mentioned earlier, the trade has increased quite significantly. So what could that mean for the Zangezur corridor and trade routes in the South Caucasus?
Exactly. Without Zangezur corridor, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, they can't use their full potential in terms of logistical aspect. For this one, I can give some examples. For example, in the last 9 months in 2025, thanks to the middle corridor, Kazakhstan was able to increase the amount of trades for 39%. So it shows us to what extent the middle corridor is getting strong interest, strong influence in the geopolitical maps. Because we know that in the last 5 years since the start of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, the most important, the highly aspects, the middle corridor got influence, stronger interest from the Europe, from the Asia as well. So in this case, Uzbekistan, in particular Kazakhstan, has very interesting, very supportive arguments regarding the Zangezur corridor, because this is not only for Azerbaijan, but this is also for Central Asian nations, because it helps for the Central Asian nations, including Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, to send goods by the help of the Zangezur corridor in efficient way, in shorter time of period, and in definitely the price of the Central Asian products in European markets will be way competitive and cheaper, thanks to the Zangezur corridor. So therefore, all of the officials, Ministry of Transport in Kazakhstan, they have mentioned it, they are eager to implement intergovernmental documents, also to work on it, in order to join Zangezur corridor within the scope of middle corridor aspects. So one thing is very clear now, all the Central Asian and South Caucasus nations, they are on the same line, on the same interest, which helps the longer strategic vision for the whole region, I think.
And are there any future roadblocks in regards to timelines on the completion of the middle corridor?
Exactly. There is a risk all the time. The point is to what extent those sharing nations will be responsive, to what extent they will be adaptive to the new condition. Because now we see the geopolitical tension in this region is rising, in particular from the Iran, in particular from the Russia. So therefore, definitely there will be some pressures, there will be some cases. The most important aspect is having a common vision within the Central Asian and South Caucasus nations, how to use it for your own purposes, how to make it as much as efficient for the regional states. So therefore, there will be some probably sanctions, probably some cases, but it's not the point. The point is how to act in collective way, how to react in exactly what is required to do. So therefore, it's totally depends on the common vision and integrational common documents, because if we look at just last 24 months of these projects, middle corridor I mean, we have seen strong technological advancement, application of AI technologies. So therefore the reopening of the Zangezur corridor, definitely it will make the middle corridor in the long run one of the most competitive, one of the most efficient way of transport logistic in the modern time of period in Eurasian landmass for the long run.
And what would you say is that, why is it so important to have that common vision between the South Caucasus and Central Asia? Why is that so key?
Yes, there are two reasons. The first thing is all the logistical hubs, logistical aspect is useless if we have some counterfactual visions. So all these trade routes, all this economic aspect, they will based on the common vision, common policies. For example, I can take the example Organization of Turkic States, which had been made a great progress using this Zangezur corridor as well as middle corridor as one of the super effective trade routes in the wider region. So therefore, without having vision, without having strong sense of identity, let's say, strong sense of understanding, creating such a kind of projects which works, which fits for all, it will create the foundation of this one. Because we have some examples in European Union, in the United States as well. But I think in this matter, the Turkic states, Central Asian and the South Caucasus nations have stronger interest than ever before.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much. Sorry, I had to cut you off just a little bit earlier there. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for your insights and for joining me this evening, Mr. Nushanbayev. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're now up to date with the world's news for the hour. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to AnewZ.